Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me today because we are talking about my favourite topic aside from all my other favourite topics, and that is self-love. So let's get started. I love self-love. I think it is so important. Self-love and sisterhood are two of the most important things to me, and probably soul plan. The three S's: self-love, sisterhood, soul plan. That's basically my life. So I want to talk to you about self-love today because not only is it really important, but it's also a massive trend at the moment, and I think it's a really important one. And sure, there are some gimmicky things out there, but I don't care. This is a really important thing, and whatever it takes to get you to engage with self-love, I think that's fantastic. So let's start with, what is self-love? Well, firstly, self-love is not selfish, and secondly, self-love is whatever it means to you in order for you to feel like you fulfilled your needs and filled up your cup so that you're ready to hold space and have the capacity to be around other people without feeling drained or as if you're not getting what you need from other people. There are so many people out there talking about self-love at the moment, and they're all amazing, and I will mention a few of them, and I'll put some links in the description box as always to some amazing women I know. However, a lot of people are quite prescriptive about self-love and tell you there's a certain way that you can do it, or what you should and shouldn't do, and what isn't included in self-love. And to that I say that is a load of rubbish. Self-love is anything that you want it to be, so long as it feels good for you, it's healthy for you, and it is filling up your cup and the needs that you aren't getting filled up from other people. So I first came across self-love back in 2015. I read a book called The Miracle of Self-Love by Barbel Moa. If you don't know her work, or if you've not read that book, I highly recommend it immediately. It's amazing and it definitely changed my life. So please do check that out if you feel called to it. As I've mentioned to you before, or if you follow me on social media, you will have seen me talk about the fact that I have been bullied and picked on and excluded many times in my life. And this led to me really hating myself and feeling as though I had to be somebody I wasn't in order to fit in and to be liked by others. And unfortunately that didn't really work. However, when I came across this book by Barbel Moa, I realised that actually if I had actually just loved myself, I would have filled all of the needs that I had, all of the desires and the wants that I had and I was craving from other people. I would have filled those up myself, and then I would have had the capacity to actually connect with people who are like-minded and were actually my tribe, because I wouldn't have been trying to fit in, because I would have been comfortable and secure in who I was and who I am. I then embarked in 2016 on a 100-day self-love journey. You can still see that on Instagram. Just search the hashtag and it will come up, hopefully. And basically every day I just did one small thing towards loving myself, and I documented it for accountability on my Instagram page, because I'm not the best at finishing projects. Very good at starting them, not great at finishing them. And so I thought, if I make myself accountable on my Instagram, then I can hopefully really engage with that more. And I've connected with some really beautiful women through that journey who I'm still friends with or connect with or follow to this day. Now, I did my 100-day self-love journey single. I actually think it was one of the best ways for me to do it, because I didn't have the influence of anybody else or a romantic partner trying to tell me what my self-love should and shouldn't look like, or how I should and shouldn't treat myself. So if you are single, then this is a fantastic time to start loving yourself. And if you're in a relationship, it is the same. You can love yourself at any point in your life. It just has to start with you deciding and committing to yourself. And rather ironically, literally the day after I finished my 100-day self-love journey, I actually went on a date. It didn't work out, but I'm still friends with the guy to this day, so that's fine. So there are loads of amazing self-love practices out there, and I'm going to share some of them with you in a moment. But I just want to share a personal story of one of my experiences of connecting with the idea of self-love that took so much courage, but it was honestly the best thing I've ever done. And if you can do something similar or the same, then I am so happy for you, and please let me know in the comments below. So the first kind of challenge I set myself for self-love was going out for dinner by myself. And the first time this happened, it was completely unintentional. I went to London and stayed for the weekend for my course when I was training in Soul Plan, and I went for dinner by myself. and it was the first time I'd ever been for dinner by myself, and I was really scared, but because I'd been working in a restaurant where a lot of hotel guests used to come and dine on their own because they were down for business, I knew it was fine. It wasn't weird, it wasn't odd. If you are looking to go on a self-love dinner date, then I definitely recommend going to a restaurant connected to a hotel, because there will be loads of other single diners there, so you'll definitely feel like you stick out less. And I'll be honest with you, nobody cares. That's one of the things I also learned from waitressing, is I never ever judged anybody who came for dinner by themselves. Even if they weren't a hotel resident, I just knew that actually it takes a lot of courage and it's really nice to go for dinner by yourself. So I really took my hat off to them, and I usually gave them better service because I really felt they were doing something awesome for themselves. So anyway, back to 2015 when I was having this dinner alone, and I went into the hotel restaurant and sat down, ordered myself a glass of wine, this was when I used to drink, and some nice meal and a dessert, and I sat and read my book, and I tried really hard to be present. I obviously documented it because of Instagram, let's face it, who doesn't document their life these days? And I found that I actually didn't feel as weird or as awkward as I thought I would. And I was there for 4 nights, so the next night I went to a restaurant across the street. I went quite early just because the course had finished at about 5:30 and I was really hungry, so I went as soon as this restaurant opened, and I was just so present in the moment of actually really enjoying the meal I was having that I kind of forgot that I was alone. And I guess London is quite a cosmopolitan place, so it's not out of the ordinary to see people eating dinner alone there. So definitely nobody was looking at me weirdly, nobody was judging me, and the staff were all really lovely to me. So going for dinner on your own is honestly one of the most amazing steps you can take for self-love. So I highly, highly recommend it. If you're in a town or a city that's a little bit smaller, and perhaps you're a little bit more nervous because you might know quite a few of the people who work in the restaurants, or you might be nervous of bumping into somebody you know, then I would say go for lunch on your own. Going for lunch on your own is something really simple that you can do. You can pop into a coffee shop, a cafe, or a restaurant and go and have lunch alone and just kind of test the waters that way and see how you feel about doing that. And then once you've kind of got used to that, that's when you can then start going for a full-on dinner date with yourself, and use that as an excuse to dress up, to feel sexy, to feel good about yourself, and to go out and really enjoy your own company. So another thing that I absolutely love doing for a self-love date is going to the cinema. I cannot tell you how much I recommend this. So many women used to come into the restaurant where I used to work with their husbands or their partners, and I'd say, what are you guys up to tonight? Do you have any plans after dinner, because you're in quite early? And they'd say, oh yeah, we're going to the cinema to see this, this and this. And I can just remember the men were like, because it was a film they did not want to see, but the women really wanted to go. And I just used to think to myself, why don't you just go on your own? The best thing ever is going to cinema on your own, because nobody judges what you're choosing to watch and nobody even notices. You're in the dark. Like, if you're feeling nervous about going out on your own to do something in case people stare at you funny, go to the cinema. You're sitting in darkness. Nobody will notice. So I first went to the cinema on my own the same weekend and the same trip that I went for dinner on my own. I cannot remember what I went to see, but I went into the Odeon and I went to watch whatever film it was, and I loved it. I've been with ex-partners in the past who haven't wanted to see the film I've wanted to watch, and they've just moaned about it and said, oh, that film was rubbish, I didn't enjoy it, and it just sucked all the enjoyment out of it for me. Whereas now, I will literally go to the cinema all the time on my own. I think I actually prefer going to the cinema on my own. So that's another thing I would really recommend for getting used to being on your own, getting used to being in your own space and your own company, in a space where no one's going to notice, you're in the dark, and you can just enjoy your popcorn and your drink and your sweets, or whatever healthy snacks you take with you, and just actually enjoy the movie without having somebody else's opinion and complaints shoved upon you. Another self-love ritual that I absolutely love is having a Himalayan salt bath. I like to have mine basically at midnight. I just find that midnight's a really magical hour for me, and I usually feel very connected to the divine, but obviously your schedule might be completely different. And I have definitely had a self-love bath at like 10 in the morning with a green juice in a champagne glass and a face mask. Do it at whatever time of day and whatever day of the week that is most aligned for you and most works for your schedule, or fit your schedule around it, because you are worth it. So I like to have Himalayan salts. Sometimes I'll have some rose petals or some dried lavender in the bath, although that is a pain to clean out of the bath unless you have one of those guards that catches all the rubbish that you can put in the plug hole. It's a top tip for you there. And I will light some candles, put some relaxing music on, and turn off all the lights, maybe put some incense around or some essences in the bath, and I will just indulge myself completely for at least 20 minutes, just soaking up all this salty goodness within the bath, and just let the Himalayan salt work its magic. So you may not have a bath. If you don't have a bath, do you have a friend or a family member who you can go to have a bath? And if you don't have access to a bath at all, then if you're feeling really indulgent, you could always rent yourself a cheap B&B or a hotel room for a night, because again, you are worth it. This is part of self-love. If you would do it for a romantic partner or a friend, why are you not doing it for yourself? There is no such thing as being too indulgent, so long as it is healthy and loving. I don't want you to get yourself in debt. Okay, so those are my 3 favorite rituals for self-love. Let's talk about how else self-love can show up. So self-love needs to be catered for on several levels. Firstly, mind, then body, then spirit, and then emotionally as well. So in terms of your mind, thinking about, could you practice mindfulness? Could you practice meditation? Do you have a really busy schedule? Do you perhaps need to pull back your energy and not be so scattered and start saying no to people? If you're somebody who always says, oh yeah, I'll do that, oh I can do that, yeah, that's fine, and actually you're just draining yourself and diluting your energy and scattering yourself all over the place and not actually able to serve yourself or your family or other people properly, then it's probably important that you start saying no when you actually mean no, and yes, if you really can commit and offer your time and energy to something. Taking care of yourself emotionally is really important. Expressing your needs, expressing your feelings. If somebody upsets you or hurts you, taking the time to say to them, actually, do you mind if we clear the air between us? That's really hurt me what you've just said. Or if you can't say it in that space, taking yourself away, saying, I just need 5 minutes, walking away from the situation, calming down, and then going back and saying, actually, what just occurred between us has really brought up this, and this emotion in me. It can also just be something as simple as, if you have a partner who's putting a lot of pressure on you or asking you to do a lot of chores or a lot of work, or blaming you for things, then taking the time to sit down with them and say, I feel like we need to have a conversation about this because I am feeling X, Y, and Z. If you can't do any of that, then sometimes the best thing for your emotional and your mental self-love health is to seek counseling or coaching, working with somebody who can help release and heal those emotions or any kind of overwhelming or stressful thoughts that you're experiencing. Taking care of your soul. So this could be having time alone, having space away from other people is so important for self-love, because then it gives you the actual space and freedom around you to release what you need and then fill up on what you need at the same time. So it could be time alone, it could be something as simple as waking up 5 minutes earlier and going for a short walk. It could be journaling, it could be meditating, it could be a yoga class or an exercise class, but anything where you can really spend a bit of time alone, or at least not really be conversing with everybody. You know, if you're in a yoga class, usually you're focused on the moves, you're not able to really converse with people, which gives you time to just focus on your breath and the pose that you're moving into or out of, which is all you need to focus on sometimes, and that just frees up your mental space. And then also your body. What does your body need? Are there certain foods or drinks that your body doesn't like or does like that you need to include more of? Maybe going to see a dietitian for some advice if you're not totally sure, or a nutritionist. And again, some form of exercise could be really helpful. I really love going for walks in nature. I find it really grounds me. It gets my body moving, it gets the endorphins flowing, and I love yoga as well. But I also love lifting weights. Slightly less keen on cardio. Not one for HIIT, but if you are really into HIIT classes, that's amazing. Moving your body, because endorphins are so important. If you're in a space where you're in a very stressful job or a very pressured job or a pressured relationship or work life or home life, perhaps you have loads of children, you need to make time for yourself, because otherwise you're just going to be running on empty, and when you run on empty, that's usually when resentment or anger builds, and then that's when there's usually an explosion of an argument or something, and it's not going to be a happy time. So making sure that you're fulfilling all of those aspects for yourself each week, or if you can't do each week because you've got a very busy schedule, then at least each month. So I try to have at least one self-love ritual bath a month, usually on or around the full moon, knowing me. However, you might find that you need to do it every single Sunday night, before you go to work on a Monday morning, so that you are totally rested and relaxed and feeling recharged, ready for the week ahead of you. I also prefer to meditate at night, but you might find that meditating in the morning or doing some breath work in the morning is really helpful for you to just become fully present in your body and to feel completely calm and ready for the day ahead of you. So self-love is going to look like whatever you choose it to look like. It doesn't have to be, oh, I've bought myself a book or I've bought myself a bunch of flowers. I think it's beautiful if you can do that for yourself, and buying yourself a bunch of flowers is lovely because, let's face it, many people love receiving beautiful gifts or flowers, and often our romantic partner or our family won't always do that. However, if you do that for yourself, that's one tick that you've done, that's one self-loving thing that you've done, that's one need that you've fulfilled, one desire that you fulfilled for yourself. However, I know that a lot of people say that self-love should not be too superficial. Actually, I think it should cover all levels. It should be shallow and deep. So there's the really deep work that you can do, like going for a therapy session can be extremely self-loving, and seeking help for a difficult situation that you've experienced. But likewise, buying yourself a necklace that you really like, that you know nobody else in your family or in your relationship is going to think to buy you, even if you are dropping hints, then that as well is loving. Self-love is literally whatever you want it to be, and I'm going to keep saying that because I think it's really important to drive that home. I can't tell you what your self-love will look like. I can share what mine looks like. I can give you some tips and some ideas of things to try, but at the end of the day, you might not resonate with any of it. That's cool. Find what works for you. So I just want to mention one awesome lady who I've connected with on Instagram who's all about self-love, and I absolutely adore her. And I'm sure if you know of her or if you're about to go and find her, you'll find that you'll adore her energy as well. And that is Melody Godfred, who is the owner of Fred and Far. If you haven't heard of Fred and Far, I definitely recommend checking out her website and her Instagram page. But Melody created these gorgeous self-love pinky rings. I have two. Yes, that is how much I love myself. So the first one I got was, I think, in 2016 or 17, and I just happened to come across Melody's work on Instagram, and I just thought it was beautiful. I'm a Libran, I love sparkly things anyway, but what I love is that Melody has made it into a movement for women to actually really love themselves and to commit to themselves. So as well as having a wedding band or an engagement ring, or if you don't like me, that doesn't matter, because with this pinky ring, you're actually committing to yourself and to loving yourself. And Melody's work is amazing. And Melody also has released this adorable book, which is the ABCs of Self-Love, with some gorgeous information for each letter of the alphabet of things that you can do that are loving for yourself. So I definitely recommend checking out Melody. And her motto is, "My ring is my reminder." So every day that you're wearing your ring, you can look at it and be reminded of your commitment to yourself and to loving yourself, and to taking each day and each step as they come, and just working through any challenge that you may face, and coming from that space of forgiveness, gratitude, and loving yourself first. So whilst we're here, let's touch a little bit on self-care. Self-care is the same as self-love. It is whatever you want it to be, whatever it means to you, however you feel, you are going to fill up your cup and care for yourself. Again, you need to look at it emotionally, physically, mentally, and for your soul or your spirit. Self-care could be as simple as going for a smear test that you've been putting off, or seeking medical help if you're experiencing postnatal depression or PTSD or depression of some sorts. But self-care can also be, again, saying no to things that you don't really have time or energy to do, and doing things that are physically caring for your body so that you're filling up your cup. So there is obviously a similarity between self-love and self-care, not least that they both originate from within. And I wrote a post about this a few years ago on my Instagram, so I'll pop that in the description box below so that you can read through that and see if you resonate with the definitions that I have for each of those terms. So I hope this has been an interesting introduction and insight into beginning self-love, and please do let me know if you already practice self-love and self-care rituals in the comments below. I would love to hear from you, and perhaps find some new rituals I can try myself. Just remember that self-love and self-care are just that. They are totally defined by you, and nobody has a right to take that away from you or to judge you for self-love or self-care. And finally, why is it important to practice self-love? Well, of course, when you fill up your own cup, when you fill up your own inner well, then you have all of your needs met, all of your desires met, and therefore you have the capacity and the time, energy, and space to give and share to other people. And that's really important, in that we aren't blaming other people, or we don't need other people to fulfill things for us, because we've taken care of ourselves. And I think that's really important for healing the planet. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you next week.